Okay, what was the title? I only just wrote this title, but I've forgotten. Is Waking Up an Open Secret? Which is a beautiful title. Yeah, so I've been really blissing out today. I often find this, like I did an immense journey the last 2 days. I drove back to England. I often drive back to England in the past because I had Khaleesi, and this was the first time I did it without Khaleesi, and I missed my boat. And it's a night ferry, so I arrived, it's like 9:30 I arrived. I should have arrived by 9:15. And yeah, and then I'm sort of stranded there with nowhere to stay because I'm meant to be sleeping on the boat. So yeah, I found somewhere to stay and then had to do the journey the next day and then didn't arrive to my mum's till I think like 11 UK time, 12 French time. Yeah. So anyway, these long journeys sometimes like super bliss me out because it's such a meditation driving. Like it's not actually a very long trip that I do. It is long, but not long in comparison to some others. I think it's like maybe like 500 or 600 kilometers, maybe 500, 450 miles, maybe more than that. Yeah, I'm not good at that. Maybe 700 kilometers. Yeah. And it's really interesting and fascinating being around humans. I live a really remote life. I don't live in the countryside. I live in a small town, but we sort of live inside the house and don't interact so much. Like a really remote life, and so then being around so many humans. And my mum lives near London, very close to London. It's kind of very much like London, and yeah, just going shopping, it's like maybe 10 times the size of the supermarket that I'm used to shopping in, and it's packed. And it's so interesting to feel so still with all that activity happening and the humans and the different emotions and experiences. Yeah. And it's interesting because I don't realize, I mean, I do know, but I don't really realize it on a day-to-day basis of how remote my life is. But then when I go into a city or into human activity, I'm like, yeah. Humans are so gorgeous, and it's so sad, the mental turmoil that they get caught up in often. Like there's so much life and activity and energy. Yeah. And also yesterday or the day before, being in the Netherlands, I crossed from the Netherlands, and the life and the energy there as well. And I'm not saying that a remote life is needed for this, but there often needs to be a questioning of you and your activities. Why you do certain things. Is it to keep you alive as a separate person, Or is it to move more towards freedom? Like, as we melt more and more into this subject, the whole experience has to be totally focused on what you are, and not what you're not. Although you could say you got to focus on what you're not. You could say it either ways, but what I mean is like focusing on what you are as opposed to the illusion of what you are. You could also, when I laugh at myself in saying that, because you could say focusing on what you're not also collapses you into what you are. But I didn't mean it in that context. I meant it in the context of holding this in mind at all times, that everything that you think and feel and do, every experience is an illusion. It isn't the truth of the situation. And sometimes the illusion has this added dimension to it, where it's an illusion for you, illusion about you, and this you is always trying to get to something or somewhere in time. So it like lives its daily life and does its daily life according to this premise that it exists and that it's going to get somewhere in time, whereas we never get anywhere in time. We're always suspended in the middle of nowhere, and things are changing, giving the appearance of time, but there's really no time. It's so phenomenal. When you're focused on you and what you can get from time, then time is very present to you. Your whole world is about time, me, and what I can get and what I can avoid. And this message is about sinking back into what you truly are right here, right now, which is a still presence where everything is changing in. Yeah, so if you are running around, especially over the holiday season, are you doing it to make you, the illusory you, more or less? More would be you're doing it to create an image of yourself, to get something from time, to get a freedom from time. Whereas the only freedom is right here, right now, always. Like death is such a phenomenal reflection of this. So death has been something that's coming up. Khaleesi obviously died at the beginning of the month, and then my mum's actually been unwell as well. She's in her older years now. And death is such a fascinating reflection on this. So if you've ever experienced someone close to you passing, especially someone that you're close with, it's so fascinating because they just disappear back into this moment. So, and you can't walk backwards in time to retrieve them, because you're only ever here. Everything else has been a daydream. Everything else is a functioning of this brain projecting a simulation, projecting a world, projecting a reality, and then the illusory person takes it to be a truth. So that's the illusion that non-duality is talking about waking up from, the illusion of you in a separate world. illusion that there is separation, whereas really there is projection happening. Nothing is real. The only thing that is real is what you are, right here, right now, as presence. Everything else is changing. And when somebody dies, they dissolve back into this and they don't reappear in this. And the only way you know them is through images, stories, or ideas, or photos, or videos arising now. And our mind thinks they've disappeared in time, that they've been lost back there, but they can't ever be lost back there. There's not a back there in which you can go into and retrieve them, like pull them into the shot. They've disappeared back into this now. They're always been disappearing into this now. You can't get back there. You can never get back and retrieve them to here. They only ever were here. Did you ever experience them in the past? Did you ever be like, halt this moment, one moment everyone, just freeze frame this. Let's just freeze frame and go back to the past and have an examination of something, or pull somebody out of the past. You've only ever pulled someone into presence. That's the only place that anything has ever existed, is in presence, is in what you are. And it's such a radically different way of seeing life. To see life as constantly this presence that's appearing right here, right now, rather than this time-bound reality. It's so tight and constricting, this time-bound reality of me moving in time, me with all my problems, me with the people that I've lost. This isn't a truth. The truth is right now, right now. I'm not trying to deny human emotions that come with loss, but they appear now. It's all happening now. Have you ever not been now? Right here. Right here. And this is your freedom. You know, when I'm speaking, you have these moments where you just drop back into this moment. I mean, there's not even really a you that can drop back into this moment, but I suspect that you kind of understand what I mean. Right now. Right now. And everything that is appearing to you in this life is all about waking up. Everybody is on the waking up story. Everything. 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 It couldn't be any other way. Because it's only a waking up story. That's all this life is about. And yeah, it can be random and chaotic, but that too is the waking up story. So, you know, you could fall over and, cause yourself an injury, like fall over on a banana and cause yourself an injury. And that is random and chaotic, but it's also the waking up story, because that's all this life is about, is to come back to what you are, which is right here, right now. Absolute freedom. Here, as you are. What stops freedom is this seeker. And the seeker is not the I am. The seeker is I am something. The I am is the first thing that comes into this life of beingness. So the big consciousness, the first thing is the personal consciousness. And the beingness, the first thing is the I am. So it's not the I am, which is identification. The I am is, something that comes with this human, this sense of existence. I am. But it's when the I am becomes personalized. So the baby has an I am, a sense of I am. It doesn't have a conceptual sense of it. So we're not talking about the conceptual sense. We're talking this feeling of being, this feeling of existing. And the seeking starts when it's I am a name, a body, an idea. And that already is seeking. You're seeking to be something. You're looking to be a name. I am Lisa. Let me keep reaffirming that. I am Nathan. Let me keep reaffirming that. I am something. And then this I am at something grows. So I am a name, body, form, feeling, idea, sensation, behavior, action, past action, choice. So all these things it identifies with. It comes with this feeling of limitation. And this limitation grows the more that there is more in the identification, so more in the I am this, I am that. So the limitation, the more that I am good, I am bad, the more that you put limitations on yourself, the more it feels uncomfortable, because who you are is the unlimited. So then when you feel limited, then you seek to relieve that limitation through time. And you can never get it through time because time doesn't exist. Where is time? Where is time? It's only here that there's freedom. Right here. Right here. Most humans, this is their suffering. They're looking in an illusory, impossible place to free themselves. And then they go on this massive journey, which is disastrous in a way because they can't do it. They can't complete the mission. So then as the years go on, they feel more flattened and destroyed and hurt by life and resentful towards people, places and things. This person did this person did that. And that's what's not true. So when I missed my boat on Friday night, I knew instantly it couldn't be any other way. It was so strong here. It doesn't mean like before I missed it, I was aware I was going to miss it. Because I accidentally put the wrong address in. And it was 35 minutes away where I put the other address. So when I arrived at the wrong address, I was like, huh. So then I was aware that I was going to be too late. I was like, oh, balls. So I phoned my partner to try and get him to phone the port and tell them to stay open for me, which they do, the boats. They're really kind if you phone them, but he couldn't get a number, and I was driving, so I couldn't go into my email to get the numbers. So it didn't mean that I didn't put effort into trying to avert that reality. But then when the reality was, it's like it couldn't have been any other way. How could that have been any other way? I couldn't have done anything different. I couldn't have put the address in any differently. I did what I did. we can reflect on it to next time, like not change reality, but next time for me to be more conscious about what address I'm putting in. It's a little hard, I have to say, with, if you've ever caught boats, they're not exactly as clear as they could be about addresses, but still I've done it many times, so so we can put that information into the brain, okay, next time, or I'm going to write it down, the address, or I'm going to double check it, or I'm going to check it at my stops, whatever we say. But that is only to update these instruments to make them optimal at functioning. But it doesn't mean that it can ever be any other way. It is what it is. Even if we update this body, its destiny as to what it does, it can't ever be another way. Have you ever managed to get life to be another way? And to see life radically like this, and to respond to situations like this, like, so it changes the mental suffering. There's life flows so much easier. It's not anybody's fault. There wasn't any stress in it of missing the boat. There was a little nervousness, because I'm a single female by myself, but even that wasn't such a big deal. Like when you get the boats in France, it's a bit more of a big deal because there's lots of refugees around the port and they're mostly men, and it's a little more intimidating as a single female, but not in the Netherlands. And there's these big fences, like fences with barbed wire, so it's a little more like in France. When you arrive really late at night, often the night boats are like 11, 12, maybe sometimes 1, 2 in the morning. They're only 1, 2 if they get delayed. Normally the latest, I think, is 11 or 11:30 at night. Yeah. So then, like, hunting for a new place to stay for the night, in the dark where there's nobody around. You're in this like port where it's totally, everything's shut off. Yeah. It's not residential. Yeah. It was a little bit of nervousness for a moment about being a single female, and a little bit of like, oh, that's cost me a fortune, and couldn't have been any other way. And it's like, it changes. It doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't have arguments. Arguments are a really great way to update machines so they can live more effectively together. If you argue well, you grow closer. You understand each other better, and there's more intimacy. Arguing is such an important part of human relationships, but we don't argue well mostly because we're lost in identification and suffering and trying to maintain a sense of self. If you don't know how to argue well, I really want to recommend a psychologist in Seattle. You can find him on my reference page, and he's a psychologist that talks about relationships, and he does it through watching reality TV relationships, and it's so good for helping teach better communication dynamics. And he's very clear, often people that don't argue, it's because of repression and fear. Arguing well is important. That's why sales. Argue, everybody. I don't really mean that. Yes. The people that are very literal. And also, it's so different in so many different languages, meanings, and so I can imagine things get very confusing when it's not first language. Like, I really realized the other day at dinner, in other countries, you have different ways of saying I love you, whereas in England, it's only one way. You say I love you to your mum, and you say I love you to your lover. But in many different languages, it's different ways. So I very openly say to people online, I love you, and I mean it, but I can understand that might cause confusion in some people. They're like, oh, she loves me, and they might think, because in their language it's like a romantic thing. Yeah. So language is funny. And everything can be used to expand you, because in the past there was a little bit of nervousness about, especially going to the French ports late at night by myself. And it was so easy and so fine, to be like by myself and have to find a hotel and drive back through this pitch black. It was also like incredibly foggy on Friday as well, so it was like really out of a horror film. These figures walking out of the dark and the mist. Yeah, and the headlights, when they go through the mist and the fog. So it's like, take anything that happens to you, if you take it the right way, so you're not suffering, like beating yourself up because you did it, worrying about the money, or you can then take it as like an opening. So for me, it's like, yeah, wow, fantastic. I've now done that. I've now missed a boat late at night, and it was really okay. Like, it was really easy to find a hotel. It was really, yeah. For me, it was not about missing the boat. For me, in my mind, even though it was a small thing, it was more about being at the dock, the refugees, particularly in France, the big, like, prison fencing, and and then having to find somewhere to stay. But it's like, Roger taught me everything is about expansion. So like, I used to think Roger was a bit simple-minded, how he always put everything into the positive. What we call shit hitting the fan can be the most amazing heart-opening. Like, I got to the hotel and I just felt so grateful that I'd now done this one, and without my co-pilot Khaleesi, my guard dog. And I just felt really grateful. It was really beautiful, and it was a nice hotel, and it all worked out. It's a really not a big deal story, and I'm making a big deal, but I'm just trying to open up this, like, the beauty of that everything is here to wake us up. Everything here is to wake us up, number one, and then to expand the body more and more to that reality. Nothing can keep you down. It's just changing the way of seeing things. You can have had exhaustion for 12 years, and it can be your most immense, beautiful teacher. Without that, would you have gone into non-duality so deeply? Would you have gone into your emotions? If you hadn't had that, maybe you wouldn't have gone into your emotions so deeply. Because you had that, you were forced to look into emotions, forced to stop behaving in a certain way. Or chronic pain. Like, all these things that feel they can't possibly be here to serve me. Everything here is about waking up. What else could there be? All we're ever given is this present moment, is what's happening now, is this empty looking and this immense beingness. That's all we're ever given. And then there is this play happening, and then in the play there is this identification with the play and the imagination that you actually exist in that apparent play. How can it not be about waking up? All you've ever had is this instant. It's like the biggest foghorn, like boom, boom, here, here. And then there is this dream that you're actually something that's not here, that you're this image of yourself that's come from the past. You know, I am a doctor, I am a good person. These are all things that come from the past. And then you try to hold on to that going into the future. Okay, I'm going to prove to everyone that I'm a doctor, I'm a good person, and that everybody loves me. So you're always living in this past and future reality. And it's a complete lie. You're going to keep hitting up against life because you don't have that. You have right now. You have here. This. Everything is a gift. Everything is an opportunity. The things that you want to hold out the most. And I know it's easy to look at me and think, she's never really had the shit hit the fan. She says this from privilege. I have been immensely privileged. I come from a Western country. I come from a place where women nearly have equal rights. I think in the UK it's like 90% equal rights. But I have choices as a woman. And my parents had good jobs, so I didn't grow up in poverty. I had opportunity. But there's also a lot of illness in my family. You know, everyone gets it. You don't escape this life. Any projection you have onto this perfect person. But, you know, in my family there was immense illness, and it really hammered my family. It really exhausted my family. It, it took all of us right to the edge. Yeah. It's hard, you know, when you've got illness in the family and you've got a very small family, and then even though we have social security here, it still didn't, it just was so much pressure on all of us. Yeah. And then by the time I left home, I was kind of ill from it. So then I had to, trying to start a career and start my life, but I had to recover from the 20 years of immense suffering that took place. And then, this is where it's all grace, because then that led me to the spiritual path so young. And it made me so open-minded, seeing so much suffering at such a young age. And it was hardcore, the things that happened, but in the right frame of mind, the right clear seeing, you can see how all of it's a gift. Even the greatest hells, and there were some real hells in that, the greatest hells. None of this is the truth. The truth is what is, which is this moment. You're not this body, you're not your emotions, you're not your feelings, you're not your thoughts, you're not your behaviors, you're not what you've done, you're not your karmas, your actions, your future. You're right here, right now, presence. And your body-mind mechanism is happening. It's not an independent doer. It's happening like the sunlight, like the way the sky changed colour through my talk. It's happening like the space, the air, the sounds. You are a happening, a beautiful, wonderful happening. But you're not an individual doer that's controlling this. You are a part of the dream. You are a part of it. Yeah, what love really is. So I just realised that in my introduction, I never actually spoke about the title, Is Waking Up an Open Secret? So I did so much talking today, And I never got onto the freaking title. So yes, waking up is an open secret. You know, to realize this, it's never you that realized it. It's never the person. The person is part of the film. So the person is happening in the film. Person is a movement in the film. And what you are is the screen, which is the consciousness, the empty looking, and then the white light which projects the film. And neither of these two have ever been affected by the story, including the story of somebody losing home and then going back to home. The white light is always the white light, even though on the screen it looks like the white light gets lost into brown and yellow and these characters and the movement and the timeline. But the white light is always white light, which is the beingness. And the consciousness, the screen, is always still. They were never lost in the film. So in the film, the person might think it goes through the spiritual journey and then it awakens. But that's only ever in the film. What actually awakens or remembers itself is the white light and the screen. But they're not even remembering themselves like we think they are. Just 1 second. We have an unmuted person. The person seemingly goes through a journey, but what remembers itself is beyond the person, beyond the film, beyond the movement in the film. It's a collapsing back into what it always was, the white light and the screen that it's playing on. So it's always been the open secret. Who you are has always been there. So in the film there was always white light and there was always a screen. But in the film, the person is dreaming that it's lost, playing that it's lost. But the white light was never the person, the screen was never the person. They were always this, right here. And this is so unlogical. This isn't. But what might happen when I'm speaking these words is just this dropping, this movement back into what you are as presence now. Not a person, not a character moving back as that, but what you are. That's which you've always been. It's like a movement, but not a movement for you. So waking up has always been the open secret. It's seemingly been hidden, but it's always been here in everything, in every movement, in every word, in every action, in every idea, in every behavior, in everything. It's so free, it's so alive, and it's like here, right here. It's not in tomorrow, it's not in the last moment, it's here, right here.